Thanks everyone for being here. As Matteo said, I'm Antonio. I work on the cryptography team at the Ethereum Foundation. It has been a long day for today, so we start with a little bit of notation that I always on my talk, if it is managed to work. I probably need because here it doesn't move. From here? Not as well. Yeah, go down, all right.
Okay.
So I usually put the red stars on the important slides. The rest of the slides you can just leave, and that's cool. So a bit of notation here. When we talk about Ethereum, I really like to see a big pictures of it and split all the time in three big parts. So it's going to be execution and consensus and data availability sampling, just to have something in mind. Execution is where it happens, like when the software that you run is get, so where the transactions are executed. The consensus where it happens, the proof of stake used to be proof of work, and the data availability sampling is if you listen about blobs, that's the thing. What are the engine of these three components? So the execution, at least like cryptographic engine, we have this stuff called ACDSA signatures, consensus as BLS signatures, and the data availability sampling is KZG commitment. This doesn't tell you anything, doesn't matter. But what do they have in common, these three things? They have elliptic curves. So all three are driven by elliptic curves. And in particular, the elliptic curve that is used there is not the same. It's for the execution layer SecP256K1, that is the same of the one used in Bitcoin. And for the other two components is BLS, that are a bit of a curve with a bit more fancy, that has pairings on top of scalar multiplication. Now, don't get scared. I just want to give you a hint of how elliptic curves works. This was already known by Diophantus, so many hundreds of years ago. It's just nice. I'll show you two slides about a little bit of maths, and that's it. And then we go to the non-math stuff. But what actually Diophantus noticed back then is basically he noticed that if you have two curves on 2 points on these elliptic curves, and you can actually easily compute a third one. And then how do you do that? You just like trace a line, you hit the curve at the third points, you reflect it, and you have this called point addition, special addition, group law. He was happy. That's what it didn't do cryptography, of course, back then. But it actually this is the engine of what happens right now. And now we have as well something else, but for many years, this is what happens on the internet. Believe me, when you're actually hitting a website, you put an address on the website, your browser is sending a point on elliptic curves, and you don't see that, but this as well is what happens. All good, but we have a problem. This problem is called quantum computers. Now, quantum computers are going to break all these nice goodies that we have, and so we need new toys, and we need new mathematical problems that are resistant to quantum computers and that allow us to still do cryptography that we love. Now, of course, if I tell you quantum computers are going to break completely Ethereum because Ethereum is based on elliptic curves, you might panic. But the first thing to say is do not worry too much for now. And at least you have one simple thing that you can do. And these things is this. So if you have some Ether on an address that you never spent, well, you're fine. Why? Because the Ethereum address, you don't expose your public key directly because it's the SHA of the hashing of your public key. And this actually is kind of resistant to quantum computer, not fully, but on a level, because there's another algorithm called Grover that is less powerful than Shor. So you're kind of fine. So no worries about this situation. If you're in this situation that you have some Ether on some address that you never spent, you're good. No panic. But we have address, at least I have some address where I've done some operation. And in that case, you are exposed your public key, and well, we need a solution, right? Now, as I told you, elliptical cryptography is not enough. We need some new toys, some new mathematics that are resistant to it. And we have basically 5 different branches at least. One is hash-based cryptography. I'm just listing here. I'm not going to show you any more math. We have lattice. We have code-based cryptography, we have multivariate cryptography, and you have my favorite one, isogenous cryptography. Yeah, it's the best, but yeah, whatever. Now, if we want to switch from elliptic curve to any of these things, the thing is like it takes time. You can just like hope that you can do this in 1 month. It really takes years. Indeed, we as a cryptographic community, we start this replacement in 2016. In 2016, NIST announced the call for proposal for new cryptography resistant to quantum computer. And in 2017, we had many proposals. And many of these were actually broken in the same night of the proposal. A lot of people actually stay awake to break some of these proposals. 5 or 6, they fell immediately the same night. But year by year, some of these proposals were eliminated until 2022, when we had some candidates for standardization. And which one are these candidates? Well, we had two problems we want to solve that are like encryption and then signatures. For encryption, the one on the right, we have only one winner based on lattice. The name is called Kyber. And for signature, we got 3 winners. One is based on hash, and it's Sphinx Plus. And 2 are based on lattice, so dilithium Falcon. And just say for today, and at the moment for Ethereum at least, we are all interested about signatures. We don't care about encryption for now. Now, in 2025, there was like, we've been starting to work, we started to work on post-quantum Ethereum for ages, at least like I've been working on this for at least 6 years already. But as Justin tweeted in January 2025, we got an acceleration because we think that quantum computers are actually not so far. So we actually need to now put the research we have been doing through the years in practice. And we got a roadmap as well that includes many of these boxes include post-quantum. This is what I think Matteo implied, that you guys talk about this roadmaps in the past. And again, these roadmaps can be split in 3 parts. And for execution, we have this post-quantum transaction signatures calls that happens every 2 weeks, where every one of you can participate if you want. We are just like, every couple of weeks we present some stuff, and we're trying to decide how to replace ECDSA. That's the signature we have at the moment. And then for consensus, we got a plan, and this plan is called Lean Ethereum. Thomas is gonna talk, I guess, about this in a while. For data availability sampling, we are still deciding what to do. And my presentation is all about this box, this post-quantum transaction signatures. Again, we have a call every 2 weeks. In case you want to join, this is the QR code that you can, with address of the calls. And again, you're welcome to join. Now, the only things that I'm actually certain about the roadmap for post-quantum transaction signatures is that we are going to use account abstraction. And the rest we still need to figure out. Let's see what we have so far, though. At the beginning of the calls, we actually started to see the 3 standardization and see how they fit for our use case of blockchain. Not only, for example, here we see like signature size, we see the public key size, we see that we want to aggregate, we see that how much it costs the gas, because like the thing is that there's no solution like elliptic curve that fits all the columns. It's really, we are in a really pick your poison situation where you really don't have a winner here. You see, like, for example, we have Falcon that has really small size, small compared to the others, because like, just to give you an example, at the moment, elliptic curve signatures, there's about 64 bytes. And you see the shortest signature size for post-quantum is 666. So, well, it's 10 times bigger, and it's the shortest. If you see, like, Sphinx is 8,000. So it's a lot. But even Falcon that has small signatures, it has a problem with hardware implementation. If you have a ledger, if you try to do Falcon, Well, it's not going to be easy because it uses something called floating point arithmetic, and it's not going to be friendly for ledgers. And so this was the situation we had in general when we start to zoom solutions to use in Ethereum. And one thing that we actually figured out that, yeah, we have all this situation we need to solve. And of course, the size of the signatures is what matters. But we quickly realized that it's not important to match the single signatures, but if we actually found a way to aggregate the signatures, we can actually amortize the price of the signatures on at least on the mempool layer and the peer-to-peer layer, because we don't need to broadcast all the single signatures, but you can aggregate. The problem here is that we don't have a way to aggregate post-quantum signatures. We have for elliptic curves through pairings and these BLS signatures, but for post-quantum, we don't have it. But we have some kind of atomic bomb called zero-knowledge proof. So in theory, we can do with Stark proofs. And indeed, this is the kind of long-term plan. So we're here, of course, 2026. For the long-term plan, we know what we're going to do. We are probably going to use Sphinx, so hash-based signatures. And they're big, but we can aggregate them. So, and in 2029-ish, so with our hard fork called L star, because we don't have a name yet, we know the code name of the hard fork is going to start with L. We don't know the rest yet. We know that we're going to ship some kind of aggregation of post-quantum signatures, in this case, Sphinx. And the code name of this is going to be Lin Sphinx. So we know that. What we're going to show you in the next slides is what we are going to do between now and L star, because this is not clear yet. Because we want actually to start to have post-quantum signatures at the moment. And another thing that happened a few weeks ago, and again, thanks Justin to have this tweets, it's really useful. Basically, there was this paper of Google that actually showed, and this I guess got on all over the news, showed that actually quantum computers are faster than we thought. And specifically, they break elliptic curve, discrete log in less than 10 minutes. And yeah, that's kind of starting scary. Again, we have algorithm, we can mimic that. What we are missing now is the hardware. We don't have quantum computer, we have tiny quantum computer, we don't have a big one. But usually, humankind is good at solving engineering problems. So the physics is kind of figured out. Now it's really about to understand some engineering problem like quantum correction, error correction, and the progress there are actually going fast. And yeah, we are like 5 to 10 years away to have a quantum computer that will break cryptography. One thing that happened as well during these weeks, and actually here we have Riva Labs that present these solutions. There are these three gentlemen here. They show this solution called ephemeral elliptic curve keys, and what it actually means. It means that you can have a solution that is use not one elliptic curve public key, but more, and one is rotating all the time. So you will actually have, in the left, you will have your stable address, that is the hash of the public key, that you never expose the public key. But what you do instead, every time you do a transaction, you rotate your public key, so you expose the public key in the mempool for only about 12 seconds. So even if you have the quantum computer at the very beginning, they will not be able to break the discrete log, because it's 12 seconds is not enough. And so you will continue rotating this public key every time you do a transaction. And you expose your public key in a mempool for only a few seconds. This is nice. It works. It sounds a bit like cheating, to be fair, because it's some kind of solution. It practically works, but it's not really post-quantum. One thing that realized quickly after that is this, though, that we can actually keep the same kind of paradigm, the same mental model, as well with hash-based signatures. And hash-based signatures, the same one that I was telling you before. So Sphinx is an hash-based signature. The problem with Sphinx is that it's 8 kilobytes, so 8,000 bytes. But instead, if we do a kind of solution that is hybrid, we can use like a long-term key that is use Sphinx at kilobyte, and we can use something called wintersnitz or force that are like single time or few time signatures that have actually the size that is not so big. It's on the order of some 100 kilobytes. And this will allow us to use this kind of solution right now and being full post-quantum thanks to account abstraction. We have two proposals of this hash based with the key rotation. One is called Jordan, and one is again from Riva, that they developed their own wallet. It's called Nice Try. They're kind of similar. They both, at least for the long-term key that use Sphinx, they will use a variant of Sphinx called Sphinx minus that is a bit more efficient. And for the rotating hash-based signature, they use, again, force that is like few time signatures that is way, the key size is way smaller than Sphinx, so the gas price is way less than Sphinx or Sphinx minus. And that's it from my side. This is what happens at the transaction level. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, we'll have the stage to Thomas.